Thank you for staying with us. I have two gentlemen in the studio with me, all ready to hit our two top discussions for today: the Finance Act 2020 and, of course, the AFCFTA Nigeria's rule. But before we do that, there's another issue, and that's about electricity. Now, NEC approved 50% tariff increase, but that has been put on hold by the Minister of Power because there is an ongoing dialogue, and it's asked that this could revert back to the tariff plan of 2020, pending when that discussion will be concluded. But let's look at price hike, electricity tariff hike amid a recession. Now, I'm going to begin as I introduce you to my guest. I have Dr. Shirley West Ebegbe, who's an economist. Thank you very much for coming on the show today, Dr. Shirley West. Okay, I can now physically say to you, Happy New Year, because it's our first meeting for the year.
Prosperous one indeed.
Okay, thank you for coming. And I also have Dr. Harrison Ermosele, who's also an economist.
Thank you.
You're welcome to the show. So, Dr. Shirley West, what would it have been like if that tariff hike had not been halted for a while? You know, Nigeria is just getting into the new year. We came with recession. So, a tariff hike amid a recession.
Anyway, like people that knows me, I don't know how to paint or under the auspices of diplomacy and lie. It is in public domain that it has been suspended, but I am telling you with evidence that I bought 10,000 watt of kilowatt that gave me 91.2 kilowatts just 4 days ago. It's there.
You bought 4 days ago.
4 days ago.
So that was before the
yes, and that was when, even when the Labour and the government were having disagreements over its implementation.
Okay.
And you know, sometimes what works in a civilized clime under economic system doesn't work here in this our nation. Hike suspended, hike implemented. In the first instance, what are the building blocks of the cost they are fixing at that kilowatt? Anyway, maybe because of our calling accountant economists who believe in how you generate the cost per unit of item or utility. We don't know. You are telling me they've suspended it. My colleague just assented, or rather concur so that it was suspended. But I am of the opinion, because I'm a victim, it is not suspended.
Well, Dr. Shirley West, you said you bought 4 days ago.
Yes.
That was before the Minister of Power
I bought 10,000 units.
Directive that it should be put on hold. So at that time, it was still on. So let's believe and hope that, given the directive of the Minister of Power, henceforth, billings after that would reflect the old tariff plan until the end of January, when the new tariff plan would be approved.
You see, let me also use, no, this is an international, rather a national television.
Yes.
And they have a global audience.
Yes.
We, like a place we are developing behind the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, they call it Federal Low Cost Housing Estate. We just brought in light there. When I mean brought in light, we had to pay more than 28 million to get light tapped from the national grid to that place, from our own purse, the allotees. And from the very first kilowatt we were to consume, we started paying. Under what economic theory does that work?
Well, let me also ask Dr. Ermosele. Now, I know Dr. Shirley West is paid because when you pay more than you thought you would pay for, it's painful. Now, let's look at this being on hold. Do you think that at the end of the day, Nigerians will still pay the 50%, or it's going to be less than the 50%? And how would that affect business, being that we are in a recession and we hope to get out of it?
Okay. In times of recession, what happens is governments becomes desperate to source for funds from, let me be blunt, from every nooks and cranny. Yes, but the hike in the tariff for electricity could have been accepted by Nigerians, supposing when there is a smooth relationship, seamless relationship between the government and the governed. This seamless relationship in terms of welfare programs, and then in terms of making sure that they are accountable to the people, transparency is intact. The people would have been patriotic enough to accept this hike in tariff.
Does it have to do with patriotism or value for your money?
Okay, yeah, because difficult situation like the one we are in now, we are in economic distress.
Yes. In
economic distress situation, you see, it is assumed that the subjects will understand the situation of governments at this time, and then why the government is designing this kind of policy is nothing other than to source funds within the economy. So the time, you see, the subject shows some level of patriotism. Because
let me cut you there. The issue of tariff hike is not being pegged by government, although it is approved by NEC. The discourse for quite some time have been calling for tariff review. They want an upward review of tariff because they have said that recession and so many other factors have made it necessary for an upward review of tariff, which NEC had approved. But because the unions, NLC in particular, have started engaging government and also NEC, this has been put on hold. So at the end of the day, what do you advise that should happen? Given our present economic...
it appears I'm going into some other complex issues. Okay, let me focus on your question, really. In terms of recession, when you hike tariff, it worsens the plights of the people on grounds that, first, the citizens' disposable income is already very recession. A lot of persons are out of job, and then we live in a society where over 70% of job employment is done in the informal sector, not even in the formal sector. So, coming with hiking tariff and giving the epileptic power supply in the country is really painful. And besides, it is ill-designed and very untimely. It's very untimely on grounds that we are in recession, and ordinary tariff should trigger off rises in price of other commodities.
Okay, that depend on power production.
Yes, it will trigger off. Why? Because of the essentiality of power as a commodity. So a hike in its price will trigger off. We have now from that direction, it is ill-designed, untimely, and will not be economical at this point in time.
Okay, Dr. Charlie West, as be that as it may, let's also look at the side of the discourse. Individuals are lamenting recession, businesses are lamenting. That's also a business. Should it be that status quo remains, or there should be a hike, but not so much?
In a free market economy, what drives price or utility or demand is the volume of activities. The discourse we're talking about today, in the first instance, were the best in that industry, the best players, the one playing in that league. Of course, I tell you emphatically, not the best. Discourse, you see, I speak with pain because I am a Nigerian first before I became whatever I am. if the best were allowed to handle this, I've always said it, the only solution to Nigeria is let us get the very best in any area we are doing. If we are doing sanitary work, let's get the very best. The discourse we're talking about today, they enter that business without the real fundamentals of the business. They don't have the idea of that, of the distribution, whatever. How many of them, check their staff, how many of them are having the welfare packages? How many of them are telling you that yes, whatever they are doing is driven by their productivity? It's not driven by productivity, it's driven by political patronage.
Okay. Let's leave the issue of power. I just wanted us to talk about that because it's also a burning issue, and there's also something that has to do with economy, because trust me, if you produce and you don't have power, then of course you cannot be productive. And when anything that has to do with power is affected, it has ripple effect on the economy. Now let's go into our first discussion proper, which is the Finance Act 2020. I'm going to begin with you again, Dr. Shadi West. What is the Finance Act 2020 all about?
Okay, the Finance Act actually encompasses several other acts of the National Assembly, inclusive of the Constitution of the land. Company Income Tax Act were affected, Petroleum Act, all of them affected. The whole essence of the bill, as it were, now assented to on the last day by the President of the Republic, is actually to see how they can make the economic attractive, because in a recessed economy, the best thing to do is where government increase their spendings and give some buffers to the consumers, to the citizens. And like my colleague said, when your disposable income, your propensity to save is less than the normal, it pushes you into a dangerous bracket, which breeds other social ills that some of us, we don't want to hear, but they are stuck on our face. Now, like the Company Income Tax Act, there are specific people, some people that are within 30,000 naira, they call it minimum. The Act has exempted them from tax.
Okay.
There are some companies with a threshold of turnover. The Act has exempted them. And the SI duty also is also part of the Act. The SI duty, you know, how to do with your cross-border, whatever. Now, sometimes if you look at the Act too, there are a lot of things that some of us are not too happy with. But unfortunately, it's our colleague, our professional tax expert, like us too, who would have played an active role. One of such is we want to develop our automobile industry, or rather enhance it. But when you now decide to reduce the duties on those things, making it much easier and cheaper to import,
because
you have automatically nailed the productive potentials of your automobile world. You have relegated it, and not even just you have dealt with it that it cannot even wake up. Now, there are some.
Okay, please, I'm going to take you back on that. You talked about the automobile industry. We saw that when the ban on rice importation was placed, and a lot of Nigerians started complaining, even though rice farmers were happy at the time, and are still happy, I believe so. But we had Nigerians lament that the government should have allowed the farmers to grow to sufficiency, rice production in Nigeria to grow to sufficiency before putting an outright ban on rice importation. Now, if the government does same with the automobile industry, would Nigerians not also complain? Would it not be counterproductive?
You see, we have the best policies, the best theories that economics in the world has ever advanced. What we have as our challenge is the implementation. The border closure vis-a-vis to enhance rice production. I've told Nigerians that care to listen. When you close a border, it is for a purpose of enhancing your strong area you have identified that will make you to be a competitive advantage with others. Now, when you close a border and you are not closing the border in totality, you are closing it for a sectional reason, it casts doubts on the correctness of your claim. Now, if you are closing the border because you need rice to be rice production to increase, one would have expected that the 36 states of the federation have rice settlement farms, wherein there is a deliberate effort at making those rice to be produced by locals. And I've also told us, if you have a policy of closing the border because you want to increase the rice production, you should create some kind of buffer for mills, the industrial sector, value chain. Each of these products have value chains, not only just from production. There are manufacturing part of it, packaging, storage, marketing, and all this. And the value chain must have an attendant effect of the government, response from the government, which shows that, yeah, this is the reason why we decide to close the border, to allow you have the market share and have the market dominance. But when the market share and market dominance is threatened because of the policy that is not even well articulated, it gives room for the people to suffer. That's the reason why some of Nigerians are saying, yes, why not just allow us to begin to fund the Thai farms and the Singapore farm.
Now let's relate that to the automobile industry. If the government had not reduced the import duties on automobiles and left it as it was, or even increased it, that means that bringing in automobile becomes very expensive, while our automobile industry here is yet to pick up, meaning that very few Nigerians have access to automobiles. Would that not be a problem?
My lovely anchor person, my sister, let us sometimes. My theory that guides me personally is, I'd rather lose a battle today. I know tomorrow I will win.
Okay.
And if I know I will win the battle tomorrow, every pain that I will go through today, I see it as a building block of my strength. Now, the automobile you said they've not picked up. Can government openly tell us this is the deliberate attempt they have made? I was an infant when we started hearing export processing zone. One in Calabar, spread across the country. And when I grew up, I started going to see what is actually the content of these processing zones. And one of the things that drive that processing zones is just power, other incentives. And these incentives are not there. You and I recognize, okay, the best consumer is government today, public sector. Is the best consumer, is the highest consumer you can talk about. If the government of the state, government of the federal government, cannot, or cannot come and lead the rule that every vehicle to be used by the sector should be domestically produced. I tell you, there's no one that will produce and have a market share without this the spender, so to speak.
Okay.
So when there is no direct comment or statement or deliberate policy to encourage the people in that sector, I tell you, no country became what they are by mere rhetorics. Nigeria can never be what we want to be unless there is a deliberate attempt at correcting the fundamentals.
All right, I'll come back to you, Dr. Charlie West. Now, Dr. Harrison said it. There's a part of the Finance Act 2020 that is really generating lots of talk right now, and that's the part that the federal government can borrow from unclaimed dividends and dormant account balances. Now, for the average Nigerian that may not have unclaimed dividends, but of course may have dormant account balances, what's your take on that? The government moving to borrow from unclaimed balances and dormant accounts.
I think that act in itself is, I think it's one-sided, because from my view, I don't see it as something that will benefit, for instance, the banks, the commercial banks. I don't think it is a finance act that will benefit them. By this I mean, you see, these commercial banks, they have a reservoir of cash. Now, this cash, though in the eyes of the public, a fraction of it could be dormant, while others are left. Now, the banks, what they do is, this so-called idle cash, as it is being announced now, is not actually idle in the real sense of the word. This cash is invested in money debt instruments and capital debt instruments. By that I mean, in capital debt I mean bonds, in money debt I mean the treasury bills, the T-bills. Now, so in my opinion, they are not idle per se. They are not dormant. They could be dormant by way of, okay, the time frame. It says 6 years. If a customer does not go to the bank in order to access or to transact on that account, it is perceived to be dormant. Yes, but the bank itself uses that fund in other way to meet up overhead costs. So, if government should go inside, well, I wouldn't know whether they have deliberations between the public and private sector over these idle funds. I wouldn't know. That could be behind the scene. But from what we can see now, if they go into such, if they drive into, want to enforce such policy, the depository institutions stands to be at the receiving end. Because when these monies are assessed and then used to run the course of, to run the affairs of governance, the commercial banks, they are left with no free cash to go into their own company to raise a fund profit margin. So I don't think it's an ideal policy for the banks. It could be reasonable for the government, but I don't think it favors the depository institution.
Charlie West, even as Dr. Rosalie has said that, but you know that there are some accounts that some persons open, or even some business open, maybe a one-man business, and so the owner of that business passes on without family members, and maybe even the next of kin being aware of monies deposited in the bank in the name of that person or in that account. And so that account is left dormant for years. Nobody ever comes forward to claim the funds in that account. Now, don't you think that the government coming in to borrow means that the records are opened, and so the government has access to persons who have dormant accounts in the bank? And so banks that maybe for years have just enjoyed this are now made to be accountable and, if possible, make contact with next of kin.
You see, the truth is, all this cash that federal government is looking at, so you call it non-functioning account, dormant account for 6 years. At the point of documenting your relationship with the financial houses, deposit money banks, there are some key information that relates to the person and his next of kin, which means there is never a time for vacuum. If the man passes on, there is somebody who is the inheritor of his estate or whatever. Now, if the government is now putting eye on that, we are threatening the financial development system of the nation. Like he said, some of this money, you see, I don't want to shy away from the truth, which is also my nature. The corrupt tendencies in this country, if the Nigerian banks can wake up and say, let's put an end to this mess, Nigeria will be rid of corruption. Everything about finance is going through the bank. If this still continues, I tell you, before the government will implement it, the owner of those cash will take it and begin to keep the money in their house as slot funds. This will heighten the security threat on the land. You and I know, when there is no cash, the tendency for people to prey on you is very, very remote. But if the government want to destrain, want to now feast on that, because the finance asset, after a time when the owner wants to come, that's the word, wishes to come, they will get the return on investment of that money the federal government has borrowed, have used. That's the word you use. Now we'll now ask, what if the person owner or the owner is deemed dead or deemed maybe has transited, which is inevitable? That means it becomes the right of the state. That is a story. Now, you see, the dividend, unclaimed dividend, what actually lead to this unclaimed dividends of a thing? I have several shares in several companies when the thing was actually moving, based on head knowledge. Hey, this is the investment, everybody move towards that end. When a company is declaring dividend and they are issuing you a warrant, dividend warrant, 2-3 days to the end of the expiration period of the whatever, I have a lot of checks, dividend warrant in my car that are not cleared. You will not go, they say go and reactivate it, go and activate it, do all this thing. Do I have the luxury of time to do all this? It is a deliberate attempt to make sure this dividend declared doesn't get to the people. That is why there is a symbiotic relationship between, evil symbiotic relationship between the financial system and the government. And I'm about to say it. If the government actually want to check the corruption we talk about in this country today, corruption is gone technological and just scientific. And the only way to check is also scientific. But when scientific is not moving with the direction of that, I tell you, we are just making noise. In the real sense of it, government have a lot of means to get money, to whatever they call it, in the local parlance call it money, fund to pursue their laudable projects. Should it be the private warehouse cash, like my own salary that is there? Maybe I have a project that my 2 children, I want to start investing for them. As a layman, I say, okay, let me start pulling out the money there. The government will not go there, take it without entering into an agreement with me. By the time this government goes out, another government comes, one will not begin to pass buck. Hey, is this government? You see, we further expose the weakness of the development of financial system. When the financial system is weakened, your money in the bank is threatened. Anyway, like teachers like us, we don't have money in the bank. What we have is can barely take care of our needs. Only that the other side of our life is what is making us truly is not the best economic policy, that unspent money, unused money, or unclaimed dividend. Look for means to make that dividend to get to the real owners who invested into this. There was a time we said CSCS, what they call it, those collateralization or securitization of this account. It didn't work because the government didn't want it to work, so that the dividend and the money will not get to the owners.
Well, you cannot say for sure.
I tried separately to securitize my own account.
That may be as a result of bottlenecks. Now let's talk about bottlenecks. Now this is an act. It has already been signed. It's no longer a bill, meaning that deliberations are over for it. It's already an act. So before the implementation of that begins, shouldn't the government begin to address bottlenecks so that by the time they borrow from dormant accounts and even unclaimed dividends, and then the owners come forward, it's easy for them to access their money with accrued interest on it? Will people not prefer to have it that way than let it just be there in the banks and nobody is saying thank you to you for it?
Yeah, okay, I think there is much sense in that. But again, you see, many things are not clear for now. Possibly because this is just a genesis of this act. Okay. So a lot of things are not clear. Now, we can say it in black and white that, okay, government borrowing from it. It will be that, you see, this money assessed, although the customers are not coming forward, but then this money is attached to a TB.
Okay.
It's a TB.
Well, for the benefit of those watching, what is TB?
Treasury bill.
Okay.
Treasury bill.
Go ahead.
Now they have to attach a treasury bill to the assessment. And so, whatever period they want to use the money for, of course, the treasury bill will have a yield for that customer. Is account. Okay. If that's the way, of course, nobody will complain.
So there is direct finance whenever the owner needs it.
Yes, so if the owner happen to even come up Sunday and discover that this is the state of his dormant account, of course he'll be happy. Okay. He might not necessarily pick offense, given that the money, is generating some income.
Yeah, I know that the Society West is not done with this issue, but I think we'll rest it here for today as we watch upcoming developments regarding the Finance Act 2020. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be talking about the AFCTA, Nigeria's role. Stay tuned.
When I was younger, a lot of things were different. Unfortunately, most of the differences I see now are heartbreaking and are not good at all.
Before now, men were strong, protectors of the weak, fathers, brothers, lovers, sons. Their mere presence guaranteed the safety of women and children.
But what do we have now?
Men harassing and raping women.
Men sexually abusing little girls.
Men battering and killing their wives.
Any form of sexual assault, be it rape or pedophilia, is a killer of human self-esteem.
Women should stop dying in silence. Speak up! The rapist should be stigmatized, not the victim.
Rape. I dread the sound of that word. I think death sentence should be the consequence of such a terrible act.
And you mothers, build trust and confidence in our children. Believe them when they report and take necessary action.
Talking of mothers, before now, women were virtuous. They were mothers, sisters, lovers and daughters, nurturing, counseling and supporting their men folks.
But now, women are trafficking female children for money. Women are stabbing and cutting off the genitals of their men.
All this must stop, and it must stop now.
Real men don't rape, molest or abuse women and children. It's inhuman, it's barbaric, it's unacceptable. Let real men stand with us and together say an emphatic no to rape, abuse and domestic violence.
How you go stay for 4 days without food inside this house? I don't hear anything today. You must give me that money.
Mr. Daddy, why you want to use hunger kill your wife? I used to take care of my family 100% until when something can happen. Nothing happen. They send me text message say bank don't block my account number. Say I never complete my BVN registration. They say I call the number where they that text message. I can't call them. They say I send them my ATM number and the number where they the back of the ATM, including the expiring date. I can't text everything sent to them. The next thing I see, na alert. They begin to beat my account to until they finish the whole account. You don't follow me with that.
Okay, waiting now come in now.
It means say your husband, you don't do that.
Hey!
My country people, if anybody send you a text message or email say make una send una ATM or BVN number, no send them because na keep them be. Anybody where they use internet, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or personal mobile phone, see for you go. No share your ATM pin, password or personal information online. Shine your eyes on cyber criminals full internet.
A classico, I tell you, my 3 points is clear.
Yes.
Eh? They go watch my show. Okay, what do you want me to do about it? Give us light. That's the only thing you've been saying since you came into my office. Maybe your work be that. No, it's my work, but see.
Our government should do their work if we self do our own work. If not just sit down, carry wetin dey worry you go meet who suppose solve am.
My people, una don hear about the new sickness where they kill people all over the world, where they call coronavirus. This sickness no dey look face so as it fit by person sharp sharp. One of the ways to know say person don't get am now when the person get fever and come dey cough and sneeze join, and e come dey hard the person to breathe. If it don't come be that oh, the sickness not get any vaccine, treatment or cure now. How you fit make sure say you don't get am and say this sickness not spread? Since the way to get am now when you breathe am in or through your eyes and mouth, the better thing to